Right friends, welcome back to Learning Space. This is the new series, Anticipated Questions on Contemporary Issues. And these questions are based on the contemporary issues. Around 150 questions are being framed, 150 questions. And this is divided into 6 modules. And these are being presented this week, all the 6 modules. And these questions are prepared based on the UPSC Civil Services Interview for 2018, which is being conducted during February-March 2019. And not only for the UPSC interview people, but also it will be highly beneficial to all other candidates, whoever are attending the UPSC Civil Services Preliminary as well as mains examination in future. Right. Not only for that, this module will be useful. That means these 6 modules will be useful for the state civil services aspirants also. Right. So let us move on. I would like to be brief. I would like to answer each and every question in less than 1 minute. Right. Each module will be around 15 to 20 minutes. And the second important aspect is, please try to expand the answer when you are deliberating about these questions, right? First one is social media a polarizing tool or empowering tool? Right. Social media is no doubt an empowering tool, and the masses are able to know about several things. So it is empowering the masses, no doubt about it, but it is also acting as a polarizing tool. How it is acting as polarizing tool? One is fake news are being spread. Then second important aspect is echo chamber phenomenon. Because of that, fake news are being amplified. Then the next important aspect is confirmation bias. So because of all these things, it is in fact acting as polarizing tool. Right. Then is the collegium system transparent? Collegium system may be transparent because of the reason it involves the Supreme Court Chief Justice and 4 judges. Within itself, it may be transparent. But in the democracy, the institutions should be seen as transparent. Right? So it should be seen as transparent mechanism. But sometimes it is missing. So what needs to be done? Here 2-3 important aspects. Legal luminaries. Legal luminaries should be appointed to act as the guiding force for collegium system. Legal luminaries can be appointed jointly by the Supreme Court as well as the executive. That is the first thing. Second thing is the stipulations, the guidelines should be made in the public, or you can say the stipulations should be made public. There should be distinct stipulations who are eligible for High Court judges, right? So there should be guidelines, and memorandum of procedure must be clear. There should not be delays. There should be let down procedure which should be available in the public domain, right? That is sufficient. Constitution is a dynamic document which realizes progressive realization of rights, or you can say which facilitates progressive realization of rights. Can you give with recent examples? Yes, Constitution is a dynamic document. How can you say that? If you look at quashing of section 377, that is LGBT rights, giving LGBT rights. Second one is adultery law which is considered as gender discriminatory. That means it is discriminatory to the woman, so it is quashed. And similarly, Sabarimala entry to the women in the age group of 10 to 50 years. So all these things are in the concept of progressive realization of rights. You can also quote another example, transgenders' rights. So like that, you can quote number of examples to say that Constitution is a dynamic document. Next one, do you feel a separate law with stringent punishment is required to implement triple talaq? Triple talaq is made null and void by the Supreme Court. Under the circumstances, law may have punishment in the form of penalties. There may be stringent penalties but not the jail term. Because of the reason here, the marriage is the civil contract, and if triple talaq is uttered as per the Supreme Court, it is null and void. If at all a person is breaking the family ties with the triple talaq, it should not lead to jail term. So therefore, there may be punishment and subsistence allowance, all are okay, but stringent jail term is not apt. That is the predominant opinion in the country. Are you in favor of capital punishment or not? Right? To answer this, what the country needs is speedier justice, qualitative justice. That means here, if the judge is giving the judgment after 20 years, 15 years, it cannot deter the perpetrators of crime. So the perpetrators of crime will be deterred if the justice is fast, if the justice is given within 6 months, 1 year. So what is important is speedier justice system, qualitative justice system without many adjournments. So capital punishment, if at all it is there, 2 points you can say, it should be in the rarest of the rare cases. And the second point is guidelines should be devised. It should not vary from case to case. It should not vary depending on the judges. So guidelines should be crystal clear. But what is important in the Indian judiciary is speedier justice, quality of justice, right? Look at the next one. Section 377 of IPC is decriminalized. What steps are required to erase social stigma? There is a social stigma. So what is important is sensitization of the people. Please sensitize the people. Introduce sex education by making students understand different shades of sex, or you can say different shades of adult behavior. Not only that, the people should be made well aware that the homosexuality is not mental illness. Homosexuality is not mental illness. So therefore, sensitization of the society is the need of the hour, or you can say behavioral change. Then do the transgenders bill is enough to integrate transgenders into the mainstream of society, right? And transgenders, here what transgenders want is self-identification, right? But that is not given. Then second thing is reservations are not given, right? And many times their life is through begging. And here organized begging of transgenders is made a crime, right? So if you look at certain aspects, probably some more changes are required, right? There is a perception that decriminalization of adultery leads to collapse of the marriage, right? Here the adultery law or section 497 of IPC, that is gender discriminatory, right? So now the Supreme Court quashed section 497 of IPC, and now there is a perception that it may lead to collapse of the marriage. Certainly not, right? It is based on mutual trust. Marriage as an institution is based on mutual trust. And previously the adultery law is totally discriminatory as far as women are concerned. Now that injustice is corrected, right? So the marriage as an institution is based on trust, mutual trust. So we need not fear about crashing of 497 may lead to the collapse of the marriage system. Next, are you in favor of lateral entry to the civil service? Absolutely, lateral entry is required, because nowadays the era is new age technologies. Industry 4.0 is the norm, right? And at the same time, new age jobs are being created. The traits of the economy are changing fast. Gig economy is the norm. Under these circumstances, the career bureaucrats may require some lateral entry to get insights from the society, from the ecosystem of the economy. But safeguards are also required. The safeguards are, they should not benefit the corporates. Suppose lateral entry, he may come from some corporate, ultimately he may work in favor of the corporate. So as to prevent those things, well laid down guidelines by UPSC is the need of the hour. Second thing is, does India have national asylum policy? India does not have national asylum policy, and India's stand in dealing with the refugees. Friends, when you are dealing with refugees, two things are there. One is national integrity, or you can say threat to the national security. Second important aspect is humanitarian grounds. India has given shelter on humanitarian grounds. When you look at Tibetan Buddhists, when you look at the Chakmas are Buddhists, and now the issue is pertaining to Rohingyas. Government is deporting Rohingyas in the name of the security, or you can say threat to the national security. So therefore, the government is looking at the issue from two perspectives. One is humanitarian grounds, second one is threat to the national security. But what is important is we should have a consistent national asylum policy so that not to give scope for the international experts to comment about our country, right? How do you feel about the autonomy of CBI, right? CBI, it is not a statutory body. There is no standalone law. CBI draws powers. When you look at the appointment, it draws powers from the Lokpal Act, and when you look at the functioning, some of the aspects, it draws from the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, and some of the powers it draws from the CVC Act. What I mean to say is CVC controls CBI as far as the investigations pertaining to corruption. So under these circumstances, there is a need for standalone law. That means it should be made with the statutory powers, separate standalone law, and even the recruitment to CBI officials. Of course, director is in fact appointed by a committee, but other than director, all the other staff are in fact appointed without specific guidelines. What is important is standalone law, specific guidelines, and at the same time it should have separate cadre, most important. So these are the steps required to ensure autonomy of CBI. Autonomy and accountability should go together, absolutely. Autonomy and accountability. In fact, if you look at the elected institutions, they are accountable to the people because they go for the elections once in 5 years. But if you look at the regulatory bodies like Reserve Bank of India, they want autonomy. At the same time, they should have accountability. Accountability means whatever decision they are taking, that should benefit the country as a whole. Whenever they are rejecting something, rejecting some proposal, there should be some logic. So this is the important aspect, right? So you can expand this further. How Niti Aayog is different from Planning Commission? Planning Commission is top down. Niti Aayog is bottom up, right? Planning Commission is too much into the planning process, and Niti Aayog is leaving it mostly to the states. And Planning Commission is in fact micromanaging the things, and Niti Aayog is leaving it to the states. Then one more important aspect is Niti Aayog is acting as think tank, right? And it is fostering the cooperative federalism. It is fostering competitive federalism, right? Through various indices, it is fostering competition among the states. This is more than enough. Then judicial restraint and judicial overreach. And judicial restraint is, in fact, the Supreme Court, or you can say judiciary, should not enter into the domain of executive or legislative. If it is entering into the domain of executive or legislative, that is judicial overreach. And judicial restraint, that means restraining itself not to enter into these two domains, executive as well as legislative domain, that is known as judicial restraint. Judicial restraint should be the norm of the judiciary, not judicial overreach. how interoperable criminal justice system will benefit the common man. It will benefit in the way of speedy justice. Quality of justice will improve. How? Because here integration, that means prisons, police stations and courts all will be integrated. Because of that, speedier justice will be there. Quality of justice will improve. Then states ask for more powers or resources from the center. But when it comes to local bodies, they do not reciprocate. Do you agree? Constitution 73rd and 74th Amendment gave powers to local bodies. But here, 2-3 important aspects I would like to tell you. The federalism, that is basic structure of the Constitution, but not the subnational federalism. What I mean to say is, center and the states, the division of powers, that is basic structure of the Constitution, but not when you look at states and the local bodies. This is the first flaw. Second flaw is, though powers are given under 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment to the local bodies, but it is given to the states. That means the power is given to the states with regard to delegation. That is the second flaw. Third flaw is, states themselves are not in fact mobilizing the resources, right? Then how do they guide the local bodies? States themselves are not in a position to mobilize the resources. And fourth point is, there is an apprehension that their local bodies may be prone for corruption, right? Then privacy is a fundamental right, but digital transactions are all pervasive. How do you ensure data privacy? Stringent data privacy law, or you can say stringent data protection law is the need of our first thing. Second thing is, data must be localized. Third important aspect is, this data is going to benefit the domestic IT industry in future, right? Because entire big data and artificial intelligence, all these things are dependent on data. So therefore, data must be localized. There must be data protection. National Register of Citizens and Citizenship Amendment Bill, how do they go against each other? National Register of Citizens, that is to look at, that pertains to Assam, please don't forget. National Register of Citizens is to look at illegal migrants in Assam. Whether they belong to Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, it doesn't matter. It has to look at illegal migrants who crossed over from March 24th midnight in 1971. But Citizenship Amendment Bill is going to regularize or is going to give citizenship subject to certain conditions to the persecuted minorities in 3 countries, which include Hindus, Buddhists, Christians and 3 others. Right? It excludes Muslims. So if you exclude Muslims, if you look at Hindus and other communities, then both are contradictory to each other. That's why there is apprehension in Assam, right? And to remove the apprehensions, government is doing 2 things. One is, it is trying to operationalize classics of the Assam Accord. Second important aspect is, it is trying to give ST status to 6 communities. Are you in favor of All India Judicial Service? All India Judicial Service means just like IAS, IPS, district judges will be appointed by UPSC. That is All India Judicial Service. No doubt it is good. Let the district judges be from All India Judicial Service, and below that may be appointed by the state public service commissions and the high courts. So let it be like that. That means below the district judges, let them be appointed by the high courts and public service commissions. But at the district judges level, it is better if there is All India Judicial Service. 4-5 points. One is, it will improve the coordination between district judge and district magistrate. Second thing, it will result in faster delivery system. Third, quality of the manpower will improve. Then fourth is, talent pool can be tapped by UPSC. So all these are advantages of All India Judicial Service. Then the next one is, Aadhaar is a trade-off between privacy and welfare. Do you agree? Yes, it is a trade-off, but it is essential, because any benefit which is going to millions of people, that is acceptable. So there is a trade-off between privacy and welfare, and when you look at privacy also, there is a distinction between personal information and critical personal information. You have to keep that in mind. Anyhow, stringent data protection law is the need of the hour, but when it is benefiting masses of the country, no doubt trade-off is required, right? Trade-off is acceptable, you can say. Do you support 10% reservations? Till now, till the 103rd Amendment Act, the backwardness allowed, two types of backwardness was allowed. One is educational backwardness, second is social backwardness, and the third one, economic backwardness, was not allowed. Now the articles 15 and 16 are modified, or you can say amended. Through that, the economic backwardness is allowed, right? But the point to note here is economic backwardness can be removed by various measures by the government, because when the economic backwardness is removed, then naturally, immediately the persons will gain the social status. When the economic backwardness is removed, then persons can gain the social status. Government should take steps to eliminate the economic backwardness, right? That can be the right step. So therefore, as the persons can get social status once the economic backwardness is removed, so therefore from this perspective, you can argue for the need of the hour is government policies should alleviate economic backwardness, but 10% quota is not the solution, because this pertains to economic backwardness, right? Then, do you support the prescription of minimum educational qualifications? Absolutely not. Minimum educational qualification for either panchayats, Lok Sabha, state assembly, they are not at all advisable. It is discriminatory, first thing. Second thing is, there is no guarantee that educated person can be a wise person. Non-educated person can also be a wise person, right? Technology transformed the landscape of the delivery of the social services to the poor, absolutely correct, but it has not made inroads into the judiciary. Very, very important. Nowadays, big data is there, artificial intelligence is there. Judiciary can make use of this. It is not making use of this, right? So, judiciary should immediately use technology, because there are 3 crore pending cases are there. If you look at the subordinate courts, and if you look at High Court, there may be around 40 lakh pending cases. So, to remove the burden, what is important is immediately the judiciary should make use of technology. Right, friends, free and fair elections. I would like to spend another 5 minutes on this. How fake news affects the election campaign? Absolutely. Fake news affect the election campaign, because fake news have got the higher propensity of echo chamber phenomenon. And the second point is here the confirmation bias. Because of that, fake news gets amplified. So they will affect the election process. Then the next one is how data aggregators can vitiate free and fair elections. They can vitiate free and fair elections because fake news spread very fast. Election Commission should take stringent steps. Electoral bonds are transparent. Absolutely not. It is clean money on one side. But if you look at the other side, the electoral bonds, in fact, there is every possibility that the donations through electoral bonds may benefit the ruling parties, whatever the party in power, to get some benefits. So, electoral bonds are not transparent, and there are number of measures taken recent times which are not in the process of making the system transparent. 7.5% limit is removed. Foreign donations are acceptable, and cash donations are allowed up to rupees 2,000. Below rupees 20,000, individual details are not required to be given by the political parties in the income tax returns. Then Funding mechanisms to the political parties are non-transparent. Absolutely correct. There should be a national election fund. Let everybody contribute to national election fund. Let it be apportioned based on percentage of votes. That is the best method. What is your opinion on proxy vote? Proxy vote for NRIs in favor of brother. That means in lieu of brother in America, sister may exercise here. What is the guarantee that sister may in fact exercise the vote as told by the brother? So the best way is, why can't we go for some sort of online voting for the NRIs? Is the election commission really independent? Up to some extent. First and the foremost is election commissioner's appointment and removal. That process should be streamlined. That is not in fact transparent, or you can say it is not independent, right word. Then second important aspect is, for several aspects, election commission is dependent on the government and more powers should be given to the election commission to decide the issues. So dig upon further with regard to this issue. Look at the next one. Can EVMs be hacked? Certainly not, because they are not networked, right? And there are several reasons to say that EVMs cannot be hacked, right? And at the same time, randomization, they are picked randomly. There are several checks and balances and they are not networked, first thing. And the second thing is, some software is burnt into the chip. You cannot modify it. So because of all these reasons, it is not possible to hack the EVMs. Then is there a case for simultaneous elections? Simultaneous elections once in 5 years may be difficult because of the reason each state may have their own problems. Some state assembly may be dissolved. Under those circumstances, can we wait till 5 years? So there is a case to go for clubbing the elections once in every year or once in 2 years, something like that. So as to avoid the election process in a piecemeal manner, there must be well laid out schedule, maybe at 1.5 years, maybe at 2 years duration, and the state assemblies whichever are going for elections during that year can be clubbed. Such type of arrangement can be thought of. Spirit of nota is definitely compromised. We are not giving much value to nota. What is the purpose of nota? The purpose of nota is basically to propel the political parties to select better candidates. And the election commission should give guidelines. If nota gets more votes, than any other candidate, then automatically the election process should be cancelled, or you can say nobody should be declared winners. And the second point is, the candidates whoever contested, they should be debarred, because when nota is getting more votes, that indicates that people are not happy with any of the candidates. So therefore, spirit of nota is to be in fact followed. For that, stringent guidelines are to be given. Right friends, this concludes the first module, and please do join for the second module. Have a nice day. Thank you.